So we have all been hearing about this whole word called Pegasus in the news, and a lot of news people have been talking about Pegasus, spyware, malware. In this session, let's try to understand what a spyware is, what a malware is, and what is Pegasus, and what we can do to protect ourselves. Right. Okay. First, what is a malware or what is a spyware? A malware is a special kind of a software that gets installed on your devices. It could be your Android or iOS mobile phones, or it could be your laptops or desktops. That's running probably Windows or Mac. This malware can get installed in any of your devices, and once it is installed, every malware has a different intent. An intent basically says what is the malware supposed to do, right? There are malwares that says uh, I will be picking up files from this specific directory and I may be uploading it to a separate cloud server, right? There could be malwares that says I'll constantly download ads from a specific URL and I'll keep showcasing it everywhere on your phone. So all of these are malwares. A spyware is a special type of a malware. Now, a spyware is its intent is not just to show ads to you, but the intent of a spyware is to ensure that it is able to download all the data from your mobile phone. Download meaning download into the spyware and give access to all the content to the person who wanted the spyware installed on your device. Now, what does this mean, right? And why should it be installed on your device is the most important question. And the most important answer is also the fact that it has to be installed on your device because every time we use about many of these applications, right? Today we are talking about this word called end-to-end encryption, right? Once you type a message and you click on send, until the other person receives the message, everything in between is encrypted. Now, obviously, let's say you want to know what person 1 is talking to person 2 on Signal or on WhatsApp, right? There is no point in you attacking the WhatsApp servers or the Signal servers anymore to figure out what the message is, right? Because they are end-to-end encrypted. But on your phone, the messages are not end-to-end encrypted, right? There is a database which stores all of your messages that is encrypted. But when you open the app, everything is unencrypted, right? You have access to all the messages. A spyware potentially targets this, and that is why it gets installed on your device, right? And once it installs on your device everything is unencrypted, and once the spyware comes into your device, it has access to your files, your camera, your microphone, your messages, your apps, everything, right? How frequently do you open an app? It has access to everything. And that is why a spyware is even more dangerous, right? And the larger problem is once it collects all of this information, once it reads the messages from your phone, or once it accesses the files from your laptop or desktop, the spyware keeps sending a copy of all of this to the person who installed, or the spyware can actually open access to your device, maybe your mobile or your laptop, to the person who wants to, right? It again is the definition of the intent in which the spyware was written in. Now, that being told, we've also understood why our devices are very important. Now, let's try to understand what this Pegasus spyware is, right? So, Pegasus was created by this organization called NSO, which is in Israel. Okay. The intent of this Pegasus spyware is not to generally just spy on you, but they have a very specific purpose on why they should spy on you, right? A Pegasus spyware does everything I told you a while back. It has access to your messages, it has access to your files, it has access to your camera, it has access to your microphone. It will constantly keep listening to you all the time. So there's no escaping from any of it. Since there is no escape from any of it, the question now boils down to what does Pegasus do and why is Pegasus built? Now, NSO Group claims that Pegasus is a spyware that is only sold to nation states. To understand nation states, right, we all understand states, but what is a nation state is, in Indian context, a nation state is basically the central government, right? It is not usually sold to the state governments, it usually is sold to central governments. And the justification that NSO group says is we have built this spyware for nation states to combat terrorism, to combat unrest, right? So it is for this is why we have done. So potentially if you identify a target and if you want to combat it, then you are free to use Pegasus after purchasing it, obviously, and you're free to spy on potential targets who could disrupt your nation state. Okay. Let's break down my devices, right? Let's take laptops or desktops and address that, and then let's take mobile phones and let's address. As a normal person who may not necessarily be tech savvy, when you take a laptop or a desktop, your personal laptop or desktop, right, you will be running a set of tools, right? Either you will be running a Mac OS or you will be running a Windows operating system, right? And then on top of that, you will probably be running various softwares that you need, right? It could be either Microsoft Office or Zoom or any other tool that you think you will need to get your work done. Now, when it comes to desktops or laptops, it is even more harder for you to figure out if a spyware or a malware is installed on your device. Some of you may have experienced a specific scenario, right? Sometimes when you insert your pen drive, all of your files will be gone. You cannot recover any of your files. Things like that. Or suddenly you will find your antivirus scanner constantly popping up saying malware detected, right? So on your hardware, meaning on your laptops or desktops, when you're using a Windows operating system or when you're using a Mac operating system, it's even more tougher for you to identify a malware, right? Unless you know where to look for, unless you know what to look for. But there are a couple of steps you can take to protect yourself. The first thing being to see if you can move out of either Windows or Apple, right? It's a very odd suggestion for us to give you this because you would be expecting to install yet another 4 or 5 softwares on your device and hope that that will take care of everything. A sad answer is no, that doesn't work like that. But why am I saying you should move to a GNU Linux operating system? A GNU Linux operating system, a good example of that is either Debian operating system, Debian, Debian, right? Or Ubuntu operating system, Ubuntu, right? Or Fedora, Fedora, Fedora. You can move to any of these operating systems. The primary difference between these operating systems and your Microsoft or Apple is the idea of administrator, right? When you install a Microsoft operating system or when you install uh, a Mac operating system, there is something called administrator rights. Who is the one who has rights to install the software, right? Usually you're also given the administrator rights, right? When you create a user account, you're also given the administrator rights. But apart from that, there is an admin user. And most of the times when softwares come in for these operating systems, they always come with some or the other extra software installed in it. Many of you would have faced this scenario when you're downloading, for example, a software for Windows, and when you click on next, 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 in between there will be one extra screen in one of those next buttons that says, do you want to install this software? And by default, the checkbox will be selected, right? There's no way for you to uncheck. And because we don't understand what that software is, we usually keep it selected and we just go forward and again click on next, next and finish, right? And you have actually successfully installed a malware, right? You wanted to install some software, for example, let it be Chrome or let it be something else, and if that software comes with some other extra software bundled in it, and you have selected yes, install this, then you have installed the malware. Now if you go to your Windows OS and look at the list of softwares you've installed, you would see a lot of softwares that you did not install, right? But they are there because some other software wanted it. But what these softwares potentially do is they are either spywares or malwares. So what does GNU Linux provide you the control is it tells you exactly only what softwares are required, and GNU Linux also comes with the advantage of being a free and open source software, right? And because it is a free and open source software, the community, apart from the usual set of developers, security experts who develop the operating system, you also have a large community of developers who are not probably directly related with the operating system, who are also looking into every software that comes in, and everybody will call out in case of an issue, right? So the more eyes are looking at the operating system, the better it is. But installing GNU Linux alone is not going to solve your problem. You also have to install different set of softwares. For example, you would probably be used to Google Chrome, for example, being your default browser, right? Google Chrome itself is a spyware, and it keeps sending everything you do in Chrome to Google, right? Every website you open, how many accounts are you logging into, which website did you close at what time, how long did you spend in a website. It sends all of this data back to Google. So Google Chrome itself is a spyware, right? A good alternative to Google Chrome is probably Firefox. And in fact, Firefox is the only alternative, right? If you are using Microsoft Edge or Brave browser or Google Chrome or any of these other browsers, it is probably high time, even if you're on Windows operating system, it is probably high time you uninstall those softwares and install Firefox as your primary browser. Firefox is again a free and open source software browser, but the advantage is Firefox is probably the only available browser right now that actually respects your privacy, right? But installing Firefox alone is not going to solve your problem, right? You have to install a couple of things around Firefox to have better privacy when you're using your, right? Now, if you do all of this, let's say you throw out your Windows operating system, you throw out your Google Chrome and everything, if you're asking the question, am I safe from a spyware? The answer is partially still no, right? And that is why you need something that understands what is happening, right? Most of the spyware today is getting also downloaded from malicious websites. What is a malicious website is a website that is built for you to open, and once you open the website, the spyware is downloaded on your device, and from then on the spyware is active, right? While GNU Linux is not going to give you 100% safeguard on getting the spyware installed and everything, it does not let you necessarily install whatever software there is without you telling a yes to the installer. Now, let's come to mobile devices, right? Let it be your Android operating system or your iOS operating system. These devices are even more scarier for one primary reason. You may be using your laptop or a desktop for a period of time, right? And after a period of time, you're either going to close the laptop or shut it down. But the question honestly is your mobile device, you never shut down. It's on 24 by 7. It's always in your pocket or your bag, right? And it is always listening to you, right? If you're using your laptop or a desktop, you can actually mute your microphone via the hardware, right? You can just disconnect all the devices that have microphone access, all the hardware devices, I mean, and nobody can listen to you. But on your mobile phone, that's not even a scenario, right? You're always recorded. Now, what can you then do on a mobile device? Now, on a mobile device, you have to take a lot of extra care. It's not like any device, it's not like a desktop. You have to take a lot more effort to ensure that your mobile device is secure. And you're not going to probably like many of the suggestions I'm going to tell you to safeguard yourself from many of these spywares. But the first and the foremost suggestion is to install an ad blocker on your device. I know all of you have heard of ad blockers. Ad blockers are basically tools that block advertisements. Okay. But ad blocker on a phone is something none of you would have heard of, or none of you are probably aware of. And the primary reason you're not aware of this is because it's never advertised, right? And right now the best ad blocker that you can have is a tool called Blockada, Blockada, Blockada 5, right? It's available for both iOS and Android. I highly recommend all of you install it and keep it active all the time. Okay. Now, what you're going to realize probably after 2 or 3 days of using Blockada is at least 50% of your internet requests are actually advertisements, right? So if you see the screenshots that we are displaying right now, you will find this is on my mobile device where I do not have any unnecessary apps. I only have my most essential apps, and you can see that 70% of my requests, right, are actually advertisements. They're all blocked requests. They're all requests going to various advertisers. If you see the list of URLs that are going here, these are MIUI.com, ads, URLs, and everything, right? This is a surprise for me also, because when I first installed this, I was surprised. What is this 70% of requests that's getting blocked, right, on my device? And I am a person who follows minimalism on my mobile phone, right? And for me, when I don't even have any of my apps, and then it's still 70% request, was a surprise. So I would highly recommend you to install Blockada. An ad blocker is just one step. The second and the most important step you should do is every month, right? Monthly once, if you can spend 10 or 15 minutes looking at all the softwares you have installed in your mobile phone and uninstalling every software that's unnecessary is a huge step, right? Because the moment you remove all the unnecessary software, that will again reduce the number of trackers that's there in your mobile phone. Okay, that's the second and the most important step. Now the third step is, when you're installing a new software, the most important question you should be asking is, do I honestly need this software, right? We are all used to this question in the recent days, especially with the pandemic coming in. We are all constantly asking this question of asking that, hey, do you have an app for that? Do you have an app for that? Right? This whole app economy, saying an app for everything, is really a scary part, right? Because in a browser you have better control, but when it's an app requests a lot of permissions, right? And when an app requesting a lot of permissions, it's usually very scary, right? For example, if you're installing a random flashlight app, right, something that will turn on your flashlight, you will be surprised to see the permissions that the app is asking, right? Why does a flashlight app need access to, let's say, your contacts or your calendar? It's pretty useless, right? And then we all have this constant tracker tool called Truecaller, right? All of us need Truecaller. We give access to all of our phone numbers to it. And in turn, what Truecaller says is, every time you get a call, I'll tell you who it is, right? From someone else's contact list. But what we are not realizing is by installing these softwares, we are not only giving access to our contacts, we are telling who this person is, what is the phone number, what is the email ID, and everything of this person. And not just that, we are also telling Truecaller who all does this person know, right? For example, if my phone number is there in, let's say, 10 of your devices, then Truecaller knows that I am associated to all the 10 of you, which is not the intent of Truecaller, right? Now, the most important question, like I'm going to repeat this again, is, do you honestly need the software, right? It's not going to be that hard for you to just pick up and say hello and just figure out who it is, right? It's probably going to take 10 or 15 seconds. Is that 10 or 15 seconds really worth me compromising my privacy, all of my friends' privacy, just to get a name displayed, right? So it is questions like this you have to ask about your mobile device. Now, Is installing Blockada and uninstalling many of your apps and being really cautious about installing new apps, is it going to save you from malware? Not 100%, right? It's going to save you from the most common malwares because you are now a very conscious user, and Blockada usually blocks most of the requests. But for example, if you take Pegasus, right? The Pegasus's URLs or the websites that Pegasus has ran was not a part of any of the ad blockers, right? Recently, only Amnesty International published a list of all URLs that Pegasus had used. So it's only now we know what URLs we use. And in my ad blocker, I've already added all of these URLs, right? And if you want to know the list of all these URLs, then you can just go to github.com/ void space xyz. That is github.com/ void spacexyz. And if you open this link, you will find a link called Amnesty NSO, and click on that, and there you will have the list of all the URLs used by Pegasus spyware also. So take a copy of all of those URLs and also add it to your Blockada. Step is to constantly update your apps and keep all of them updated, because many of these updates usually have also security updates. I'm not just talking about the apps, I'm also talking about your operating system. Okay, that is one step. But the second and the most important step is to constantly watch for news and constantly keep checking your device, your mobile or your desktops or laptops, to ensure that there is none of those, any spywares, any malwares that you hear in the news. Immediately go and check on your device if something like that is there, and immediately take actions against it, right? But there are spywares like Pegasus which you cannot uninstall. Once it's installed, it's always uninstalled. That's it, right? So in such cases, you may be required to completely format your OS and again reinstall your whole operating system completely. That's the only way. But to even figure out a solution, the best way is for you to first identify there's a problem, right? And this is not always a very non-technical activity, right? Sometimes this is a very technical activity, and we have no other choice but to keep ourselves educated about this, right? So constantly watch news, and if you come across something, immediately take action.